Today, you're going to discover two powerful techniques to elevate your speech and sound more intelligent. Whether you're in a business meeting or simply asking a question, these methods will help you come across as more polished and articulate. Let's begin with the first skill: how to speak effectively on the spot. How can you answer an unexpected question and sound intelligent? Imagine someone asks you a simple question like, "Can you tell me your favorite place in the world?" Now, a typical, disorganized answer might sound something like this. "Yeah, well, I've traveled so much. There are countless places I've been to. I was just in Dubai recently, a really great place. And before that, I visited Italy. The culture and food there were amazing, and the weather was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. I've also traveled a lot within the United States, and all those places are really good, and I had a great time." That wasn't a terrible answer, but it certainly wasn't a great one. Did you notice how it was all over the place? It jumped from here to there with no clear start or end. Could you even tell what my definitive answer was? Probably not. Let me ask you this. Have you ever heard someone speak this way? Have you ever spoken this way yourself? I know I have. So, what's the issue with this kind of response? The problem is that I am verbalizing my thoughts as they form, in real time. I don't fully know what I'm going to say, so I just start talking, hoping that I'll eventually find my point amidst the jumble of words. In essence, I'm speaking before I think. This becomes a major problem for the listener. When I talk for, say, 5 minutes in this scattered manner, you, the listener, are forced to sift through all this verbal clutter. You're thinking, what on earth is this person trying to say? You have to listen to everything, try to decode it, identify the main point, and then formulate a response to a message you barely understood. The core issue is taking unprocessed thoughts and just throwing them out there. You want to avoid that. Instead, there's a fundamental rule I teach all my clients: organize before you verbalize. What does this mean? It means before you open your mouth, take a moment to structure the thoughts in your head. And how do you do that? I'm glad you asked. I call it my AAA formula. Here's how it works. You have 3 A's. Let's use the same question. What is your favorite place? The very first thing I'm going to do is pause and think. Even if the answer comes to me instantly, I'll take 3 or 4 seconds. This small pause has a huge impact on perception. Imagine the question is asked. "David, what's the best place you've ever been to?" And I reply, "The best place that I've ever been to has to be New York City." Can you see how that brief pause made it seem like I genuinely listened, considered the question, formulated my thoughts, and then delivered a considered answer? It's much more effective than blurting out, "Oh, I love New York," which can feel impulsive and less thoughtful. Take the time to think. Influential public figures sometimes pause for up to 30 seconds to gather their thoughts. Now for the crucial part of the first A, pick one single answer. For the sake of practice, just choose one. If my favorite place is New York, that becomes my answer. So when asked, "David, what's your favorite place?" my first sentence will be, "My favorite place in the world is New York City." This is the first A. Answer the question directly. Why is this so important? It gives your response direction. Now both you and the listener know exactly what you're going to talk about. If I were thinking about New York, Tokyo, and London all at once, my answer would become scattered. By isolating one answer, I create focus. Give the listener the answer right away. Don't make them wait. The second A is to add details. This is the real substance of your response. This can include reasons, a story, an example, or even an analogy. Let me show you. David, what's your favorite place on the planet? Well, my favorite place has to be New York City. First A is done. The reason it's my favorite is because every time I visit, the city has this incredible, vibrant energy. The fast, frenetic pace of life there inspires me and pushes me to be better as an entrepreneur. This is me adding a reason. Or I could tell a story. I love New York. The first time I ever went there was to speak at a conference. I didn't know much about the city, but once I arrived, I met so many incredible entrepreneurs. 3 of them became my clients, and one of them gave me a personal tour of the city for the next 2 days. It was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. Now I've told a story. An example could be similar. A friend of mine insisted that New York City has the best pizza in the world, and after trying it, I have to agree. That's one of the big reasons I love it. Or an analogy. New York City is the ultimate testing ground for ambition. As they say, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. I'm adding the details, the real meat of the answer. If you want to be even more structured, you can number your points. For instance, my favorite place in the world has to be New York City, and there are 3 main reasons for that. First, the pizza. Second, the incredible pace of the city. And third, the beautiful architecture in places like Central Plaza. When you number your points, it creates an immediate sense of structure. Saying, there are 3 reasons sounds much more thought out and credible than saying, there are many reasons. It implies you've considered this before, which builds expertise. But if that feels too complex, just stick to one main reason or story when you're practicing. Finally, the third A is to answer and acknowledge again. Why repeat the answer? Because people often get lost in the details and don't know how to stop talking. They just keep going on and on. By restating your initial answer, you create a clear conclusion. After giving my reasons, I would end by saying, so, for all those reasons, that's why New York City is my favorite place in the world. When I say that, there is no doubt in your mind that I am finished speaking. You heard the same core message I started with. I've closed the loop. So to recap, someone asks a question. You answer it, add details, and then answer it again to conclude. Now this framework needs to be adapted to the context. If you're in a quick work meeting and someone asks for an update, you wouldn't use the full structure. If your boss asks, hey, what's the update on the project? You'd simply answer directly. The project isn't finished yet, but it's expected to be completed by the 19th. Would you like more details? If they say yes, then you can go into the reasons. Be context dependent. For longer speaking opportunities, like a presentation or a panel, this full structure is perfect for filling time effectively. You can build an entire 30-minute keynote using this method. To practice, use an online question generator or an AI chatbot. Ask it for a random question. For example, if the question is, what's your favorite thing to eat? You could respond, my favorite thing to eat is definitely tacos. The reason I love tacos is that they are so versatile and delicious. They're quick, affordable, and I can find great versions of them almost anywhere I travel. That's why tacos are my favorite food. With regular practice, answering questions on the spot will become second nature. Now let's move to the second skill, asking intelligent questions. Imagine you're at a conference hosted by a famous entrepreneur. People paid a lot of money to be there, and each person realistically gets to ask only one question. The person next to me gets up and begins to ramble. Hey, so I have this business and I've been running it for a long time. I'm really passionate about it. We have this side of the business and that side, and we're trying to grow from point A to point B. Actually, let me back up. Back in 2019, my wife was pregnant and he just kept going. You could see the frustration on people's faces as they thought, what is the actual question? Here's a key lesson. Your intelligence is often judged by the quality of the questions you ask. To ask better questions, use the AOA format. First, A, ask your question in one single sentence. Be clear and concise. For example, David, how do I overcome my anxiety about public speaking? Second, O, offer context or details. After stating your question, provide a brief, relevant backstory. For example, David, how do you overcome your fear of public speaking? I ask because last week I had a presentation to deliver. My heart was pounding, my palms were sweating, my mouth went dry, and I felt completely unconfident. Third, A, ask for what you want specifically. Clearly state what kind of help you're looking for. For example, what specific steps can I take to feel more confident the next time I have to speak in public? Here's what not to do. David, so here's the thing. I do a lot of presentations, and I don't know what happens, but like, for example, I had this speech about the environment I was doing, and for some reason, whenever I speak, my heart starts racing, and my palms get sweaty, and I'm not really sure. Like, so in your opinion, how do I, become more confident and speak in a way that, uh, you know, there's too much fluff. It's confusing and hard to follow. The AOA format works because it makes your question easy to understand, shows that you are thoughtful and clear-minded, and dramatically increases your chances of getting a precise, helpful answer. If you just ask me, how do I get over my fear of public speaking? I could give you advice on breathing techniques, preparation tips, or using notes. My answer could go in many different directions. To get the most helpful response, you need to be specific. For example, David, how do you get over your fear of public speaking? I ask because I felt extremely nervous before my last presentation. What recommendations do you have to calm my physical nerves right before I go on stage? Or, how do you recommend structuring a presentation to avoid blanking out from anxiety? Each of these specific questions leads me to a tailored, more valuable response. When asking a question, begin with the main theme, provide just enough context, not your entire life story, and then ask specifically for what you want. Here's another example of the AOA format in action. David, how do I remove filler words like and when I speak? I ask because I've been told that I use them a lot in meetings, and it's distracting for others. What is one specific technique you would recommend to reduce my use of filler words? Can you see how clear and easy that is to understand? The question is concise, it provides context, and it asks specifically for a technique. Ultimately, both of these skills come down to one core principle: organize before you verbalize. If you want to sound intelligent and add value to your interactions, you must take the time to organize your thoughts before speaking. When you don't, it comes across as lazy thinking. You are essentially forcing someone else to untangle your unprocessed thoughts for you. Instead, follow this simple process. Think, take a moment to process your thoughts, structure, organize them in a logical way, speak, and then deliver your message with clarity and purpose. When you master the art of organizing before you verbalize, you will project confidence, intelligence, and professionalism in every conversation.